Good evening, you're watching Trending Tonight with me, Sanket Upadhyay. Two stories that we are getting right here on this show. Story number one, the states have been allowed to float global tenders to procure vaccines. The question that we are asking is that if the central government can export vaccines to other countries as part of Vaccine Maitri, which means friends, then where is this Vaccine Maitri for states? Will it not create chaos where different states will negotiate directly with companies abroad and then there will be differential pricing? Will it not favor those states who are rich enough to pay more for vaccines? What about those who cannot? Are citizens not there in those states? And who will take this responsibility? Also, the whole centralization versus decentralization debate. Is this a perfect example of decentralizing power, of telling states to float global tenders? Many people look at this as the central government shirking responsibility. We'll put that to a short debate right here on the show. Also on the show, we get you an interview with Anupam Kher. Remember, Anupam Kher has started the Anupam Kher Foundation Heal India project, where he's helping, like many other individuals, all those people in fighting the pandemic. But he has a word of advice for governments. He says, it is much more to life. There is much more to life than just image building. Strong words there. Was he talking about the center or all governments? Because we know that the central government right now is in an image correction exercise to spread positive news. Anupam Kher's straight talk on the COVID crisis. He minces no words, and we'll get you that interview in just a short moment. Let's now quickly cut across live to our guests as we'll play out some graphics and presentation on your screen on what states are demanding or what are the big questions as far as this global tender is concerned. Lalita Kumaramangalam is the Director of India Foundation, member of the BJP. Dr. Ajay Kumar, spokesperson of the Congress Party. Raghav Chadha of the Aam Aadmi Party is going to join us in just a short moment. Lalita ji, I want to begin with you. Do you think that this is a perfect example of decentralizing power, that all states have been given the liberty and right to float global tenders? I mean, this is that one crucial issue where a central intervention would have helped, that there will be one agency negotiating and getting the goods delivered.
Sanket, good evening. Just about a month ago, I think the central government has announced a new vaccine policy where they have given the states the right to order on their own vaccines through whatever procedures that are necessary to be followed, and also to ensure, saying that they could buy it also from Indian producers. Now, the central government is, I think, tendered for and will be supplied 50% of the production of all Indian vaccine producers across the board, all the vaccines put together. And that is obviously meant for the states. The center has already given directions to the states that they want to have people who have now said that those who have had the first shot should be given priority, etc. Now, in short, the center has also said, the center has also said that vaccines for people above 45 will be given free at all central dispensaries, etc., centers wherever the vaccine is going to be given to people. Which means that in effect the states have been given the authority and the responsibility of ensuring that the age group 18 to 45, because remember, we don't have vaccine for the ages below 18, are to be procured by the states. Now, before the center had come out with what is now called a newer policy, I suppose that's the best words to use. Remember that there was a huge hangama all over the country from all states, many states, not all perhaps, many, who said that over-centralization is not good for the COVID epidemic. The center has not been able to meet the challenge of the second surge, etc., etc. Now, to me, it looks like as if this is, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I have said this over and over again, Sanket, on your show, on other shows too, that all the governments have made mistakes in this second surge, whether it was center, whether it was states. In retrospective, many of us can say we could have done this better, we could have done that better. In many cases, it's probably
But you know,
true,
Lalita
and
ji,
that
I
is
think the
true
point over
equally
here
of
is
the
that is
state
this
as
the
of the
best
center.
example of decentralization? Let me quickly go to Raghav
I
Chadha.
don't know. It's very difficult to judge that right now. I am
Sure.
not a medical expert.
Sure.
I don't claim to be, and
Okay,
I don't want
Raghav
to play.
Chadha and
I've
Dr.
said this
Kumar.
also. I refuse to play politics on this particular issue.
Fair enough.
I've actually heard what Anupam Kher had to say, and I agree with most of what the gentleman says. He makes some very, very relevant point. We are today in a crisis situation. All Indians throughout the country. Some states may be supposedly doing better than the others, but I think that's also a yo-yo.
But he had a bit of advice for the central government also. He had a bit of advice for central as well as state governments that this is not perhaps the best time for image building. You'd rather...
I agree with what he says. Absolutely.
Okay.
You don't have to make digs. I'm a very frank person, Sanket. And you know
yes, you are.
that
I'm aware.
I'm more than capable of calling,
yes,
spade
you
a
are.
shovel.
And I appreciate you for doing so.
The truth is that in this case,
yes, one
the
more.
also have,
I'm going to come back to you. Raghav Chadha and Dr. Kumar. Raghav Chadha, do you feel that this is the best example as far... Raghav Chadha, do you feel this is the best example as far as decentralizing processes are concerned?
Sanket, this is not the best example. This is the worst example as far as decentralizing this vaccine policy is concerned. What the states were demanding from the center was something on the lines of a national immunization program that has been followed previously in this country, where there is a central agency, that is the union government's own agency, in which certain states are also represented. That central agency bargains and purchases these vaccines. Then this central agency distributes these vaccines among the states, and it is then incumbent on the states to conduct a door-to-door program and inoculate its citizens. That's one. Number two, now what this government has essentially done is that in the domestic market first, and I'll deal with the domestic market first before I come to the international market. In the domestic market, this government has created a situation of a monopoly, and if not a monopoly, a duopoly, whereby there are two manufacturers, correct, Serum and Bharat Biotech, and there are several hundred buyers, 28 states, 8 union territories, 1 central government, and hundreds of private hospitals and corporates that will directly buy from them. So from a buyer's market, it has become a seller's market, and the bargaining power that Indian government as the sole buyer of these vaccines once enjoyed against these two suppliers stands diminished, and these two suppliers now will rule the roost. That's as far as the domestic market is concerned. On the international aspect, how bad would it look, Sanket, when India not as one unit will go to the international market, but will go as 28 states and 8 union territories, that is 36 different enterprises in the international market, and bid against each other, and the highest bidder will then eventually win the bid and purchase these vaccines, say from a Pfizer or a Moderna.
I think that's an important point. I'm going to come back to...
I'll just finish, Sanket. Yeah. This will lead to price discovery against the interest of the Indian state. Okay. This will also lead to several small states that do not enjoy the
Fair
kind
enough.
of
That point the Aam Aadmi Party has made in the past. Dr. Kumar,
like Nagaland or Meghalaya may
Dr. Kumar, does this put smaller states to a point of disadvantage?
Look, Sanket, there is a more dangerous thing. If you're not universally immunizing, then you will continue to have the variants of the virus continuously growing in different pockets. It becomes endemic. I don't know if you remember, the polio was endemic in a lot of countries. It's still endemic in Afghanistan. So the fact is that we might keep shouting a lot of stuff on different issues of this whole policy, which is obviously absolutely flawed. But the danger to whole of India and the rest of the world is the central governments took the craziest policy ever made in the history of vaccination. Now, because there will be pockets in this country, there will be a poor municipal pocket which may not be, there will be a poor state which won't do it, there will be a pocket which doesn't get the delivery, then the virus variant will multiply and become so dangerous. And that's why you're not able to eradicate polio in Afghanistan and places of Pakistan. So the issue is very clear. You want to expose India, and I don't know why Prime Minister Modi continues to exhibit this remarkable deafness on this whole thing. The world has never done this, what we are doing. The world has never done it. The BJP government also knows that they are doing a mistake. they keep blaming the states, and Lalita ji was gracious enough to accept it, but they keep blaming the state. The state asked everybody over 18 should get immunized. The state asked that you have a universal immunization program. They keep telling that the state was asking that we will procure and all. The states were requesting the government of India that you procure and distribute like all of the immunization programs.
Sure.
And I have not seen a single state or a chief minister contradicting saying what the government of India is saying to the states. So, Sanket, I'll just finish off with one last thing. The important part is, this is the most stupid policy ever made in the history of vaccination. There is no debate on that.
Okay.
India is going to expose Indians and the world to the most
Should
dangerous
there be a
different
rethink as
varieties
far
of
as the
available.
global tendering, wherein the states can, call for a bid for these vaccines directly? Will states start competing with one another on an international platform? I've run out of time, but Ms. Kumara Mangalam,
Just one
Raghav
point
Chadha,
I'd
as well
like
as
to
Dr.
make
Kumar.
here, and this is not...
Yeah, very quickly, 10
Can I
seconds.
just make one point, Sanket?
I have to play that
Very, very
interview you were
quickly.
talking about.
That is just one point. Can I just make this one point?
Yeah.
I think that the states and the center should now sit together and decide that they need to talk to people like AstraZeneca and tell them that they should forego their royalty charges. Remember that Nawala said that he pays 50% as royalty charges. Both states and the center should sit together and do the bargaining together. Because as Raghav
Well, this
pointed
can
out,
only
there are
happen
small
if there is a
states, there are
coordination
large
right now.
states,
I
etc.
feel those communication
Yes,
channels
so
are
they need
blocked.
to really sit down and
I've run out of
Can
time.
I respond to
Raghav
this in one
Chadha-
sentence?
Okay, sure.
I am
quick.
only saying there are ample provisions under the Indian Patent Act 1970 which the government of India can invoke, and compulsory licensing can be done. Technological transfer of both
Okay.
Bharat Biotech and
Okay,
Serum
we'll
Institute
carry
can
this
happen,
discussion
and other
forward
pharma
because-
companies can manufacture these vaccines.
No, Serum
Surely
Institute
there is a problem. Thank you very much. I've run out of time. Surely there is a problem. We do not want to embarrass ourselves on an international platform. That is nobody's case. So if that is the case, then why should there not be a proper rethink on a policy? It's not about damned if you do and damned if you don't, but it's about getting the solution and doing it in the best possible way, in the national interest, and quickly. Thank you very much to all of you. So through the course of this human suffering during the pandemic, we've been getting you interviews and stories of all those who are helping at an individual level, their personal enterprise to help people out of this crisis. Today we speak to actor Anupam Kher, who has initiated the Heal India project as a part of his foundation. Mr. Anupam Kher, first of all, thank you so much for your effort. Mr. Kher, I want to know from you, what is the nature of the assistance that people want from you? What are you hearing? Please share your experience of working with the Heal India project.
So we founded Anupam Kher Foundation in 2008. I was working a lot with children. I had to decide what cause do I get associated with, because there are so many causes and I didn't want to sort of concentrate on so many things. And I thought the children are the closest. So I was working with underprivileged children. So this foundation was working with palliative care, orphanages, street children, especially abled children. We were working. But when this whole pandemic started, then we thought, no, we need to have the same focus of helping, but helping anybody who is right now suffering. So the word that came to my mind was compassion. And with compassion, you need to sort of do things which will also help, whether in terms of medical equipment. And we were fortunate that I knew Dr. Ash Tiwari, who's the head and the chair of neurology in Mount Sinai in New York, and who said that he's organizing lot of equipment. I will say lot of, though he says it's very little, along with the help of Bharat Forge Limited and Baba Kalyani. And he wanted Anupam Kher Foundation to identify hospitals which will and where it should go, and to sort of make people aware of what is happening. On the paper, on the phone calls level, it was just a conversation. But when we went into the details of it, and we discovered sometimes you stay away from a certain situation and then you discover there is so much to do. And that's what we have discovered in the last few months, especially in the second wave. So what he is doing is he is sending us oxygen concentrators, ventilators, and other medical equipments, and we are sending it to various hospitals, needy hospitals, hospitals which are not necessarily rich and famous. I'm not saying that rich and famous hospitals are not doing work, they are doing great work, but sometimes people who can't afford these hospitals, we have sent it to hospitals in Kanpur, hospital in Delhi, Pune, Gazipur, and also a lot of hospitals in Mumbai. And we are also giving it to BMC here, some of it to the police stations if they need oxygen concentrators. And it is just the beginning. But my organization and my foundation has been working also on the mental health that is being a major problem because of this pandemic and lockdown. That we have been working for a long time. And now is the time, I think, to get into that also. So because I know a lot of people who are suffering with this mental anxiety or lots of other things. So I think we will get into that phase. And at the same time, the whatever equipment or whatever help, donation, etc. we are getting, we will try and sort of help the needy.
Yes, Mr. Kher, see, there are people like you, there's Sonu Sood, of course. Then even in the political world, in the political spectrum, you've got people like Srinivas BV in the Congress, Mr. Shalabh Tripathi of the BJP in Uttar Pradesh, who are all working, but they're working as individuals. Many individuals have devoted themselves to helping and assisting people. You think had governments done their job, these individual efforts would not have been required. Do you look at yourself as someone assisting the system, or unfortunately having become, many people like you, becoming the system itself, simply because there is none?
I'm assisting humanity. I'm assisting the person in me. I'm helping myself by helping others. I don't think that's a very natural process of feeling compassion towards the other fellow citizens or fellow human beings. It has not happened only. Of course, this is a very large scale on a world level. It has happened, but people have gone out of their way to help each other in the times of war, in the times of floods, in the times of sukha, in the times of earthquakes. So this is not the first time people are helping each other. People are helping because there is an element of help that is in every human being. Even this conversation is to help people. Even this conversation is to tell people there is a person inside you. You see, it's our job is a different thing. You're a news anchor, I'm an actor, but that is part of our life. That is not our life. We are also parents, we are also husband, wife, there are wives also, there are mothers, there are brothers and sisters. That is where you react to each other. So it's not necessarily to assist anybody. It's to assist ourselves. It's to assist human beings. It's assist feel stronger with other person. It's very natural. If that stops in us, if we stop reacting to that, then we'll stop existing. We'll stop. We will be like anybody else. I think that's important to do.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Mr. Kher. But see, the problem is beds, oxygen, medicine, now vaccines. The only one word that one gets to hear is shortage. And for all those who have lost their loved ones simply because there was a shortage of supply and not necessarily because of the disease, do you think that anything can be done to console such people who have lost their near and dear ones simply because there was a shortage?
Difficult to console. It is so difficult. How can you console a person who has lost somebody because of shortage of oxygen, because of shortage of medical facility, because of shortage of bed? You can't. You can't do that. But that does not stop life. I was very close to my father. I thought my father will die. He was my best friend. I will never be able to survive. I've survived. I'm not saying that people I have lost some very dear friends. You have lost some very dear friends. You are still going on and talking, doing your job. I'm still doing my job. Sometimes your tragedy looks very smaller as the tragedy to somebody else. We can complain, we should. We can get angry, we should. We can get helpless, we should. But we should not stop being people who are feeling that, okay, how can I reduce somebody else's pain? How can I help? There will be plenty of time to sort of do that. Even now, we should be angry. Of course, we should be angry and frustrated. But that should not stop me. It's like being on the front. A fellow soldier gets hit by a bullet. You can either sort of stop and start feeling horrible about it, or you can move on. That's what happens. This is a war situation, at least on a level that is happening. And we are overpopulated. It's not, I was talking to a doctor just now who has helped us in this Heal India process. He was saying New York was worse, but that does not make my pain lesser than that by thinking, oh, New York was worse. Or Italy was worse. People were falling. When somebody loses somebody, it is a personal loss, and no amount of consolation, no amount of any help can help. But unfortunately, life has to move on, especially in this time. You can either feel depressed, low, finished, and sort of get affected by it, which you are going to have, or you can say, okay, I will deal with this. I need to help somebody else. And this is what we need to learn from Mother Nature. We have really, really taken Mother Nature for granted. We have done so much of abuse of Mother Nature that it is finally getting on to us. But वो कहते हैं ना कि फिर सुबह तो सूरज होता है, उगता है, बारिश तो गिरती है, धूप तो निकलती है, मौसम तो बदलता है, पहाड़ जो अपनी जगह पर खड़ा रहता है उसको देखकर कोयल तो कूकती है बाहर, तो उसमें कहीं ना कहीं आपको सिल्वर लाइनिंग नजर आती है. तो जीवन चलते रहना चाहिए. हाँ, तकलीफ है, दुख है, परेशानी है, गुस्सा है, फ्रस्ट्रेशन है, वो तो होगी. जिस इंसान, मेरी एक फ्रेंड थी सुजाता, 40 साल की दोस्त थी मेरी, had a wonderful husband, 2 wonderful children. She had lost both her kidneys. She survived that for 9 years. She got finally a kidney. She was happy to live, and then Corona got her, and she had to be taken to the ICU. I was asking her husband and her children, grown-up children, how is she doing? One day, just 10 hours before her death, she suddenly gave me a FaceTime call from her ICU bed with all the wires on her face, and she's asked me to she said, give me your reassuring smile. And I have smiled millions of times, both as a person and as an actor. My smile froze. I did not manage to smile. And 10 hours later, she passed away. Now, whenever I think of it, it horrifies me. But what can I do? Yesterday I spoke to her husband. I said, Amitabh, whenever we will meet, we will only exchange smiles. So, I don't know. A lot of people say, अरे यार तू हर चीज में optimistic बनता है, हर चीज में तू आशावादी बनता है, ऐसे थोड़ा होता है जिंदगी. अरे और कोई रास्ता ही नहीं है मेरे पास. मुझे और किसी तरह से जिंदगी जीनी नहीं आती है. Our life has not been smooth sailing, either yours or mine. It is just that this situation has happened on a world level. Otherwise, in your age, from where you started to where it come, do you think you have not faced misery? You have not faced tragedy? You have not faced sense of frustration, sense of loss? We have all passed, and we have all gone through it, and we have still lived, and we have still gone on. So that is, in some way or the other, answers your question.
I get what you're saying, Mr. Kher. You know, I get what you're saying, Mr. Kher, but that is an individual's attempt to get back up and get going, and that is going to happen. This resilience exists in people. But Mr. Kher, how distressing do you think it is to see pictures of people crying outside hospitals, being denied entry, floating corpses in holy rivers, struggling patients? You think the efforts of government should have been more in providing relief right now than managing their own image and perception?
No, I think the criticism is valid in lots of cases, and I think it's important for the government to sort of rise to the occasion and do things what the people of what they are chosen by the people of this country. I think it is it's only an inhuman person will not get affected by the bodies floating. But for another political party to use it for their gain, I think is also not right. I think we should, as people, as I said to you, get angry. And it is important to hold government responsible for what has happened. Somewhere they have slipped, and it's important that, and it is time for them to sort of understand that there is much more to life than just image building, maybe.
I think that's an important message. Let's hope that governments are listening, particularly the central government. They share a majority of this blame simply because, provisions of the Disaster Management Act are in place. They have to really take the blame. But perhaps once the suffering is over, governments need to be held accountable. Mr. Kher, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation, and please continue to do the good work.